All right.
Hello. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button and click on the bell to notify when we have another video coming up for you. If you are returning, welcome back. Today we're on book 71, and as you can see, Chris already shared the book, so I might as well have him start introducing the book.
Yeah, so this book is actually, I don't know if you remember this, when we were having an L10 meeting once, Blake had mentioned he was reading this book called On Becoming Babywise before
Yes,
Cooper was born.
I remember.
So he sparked my curiosity. So that was how this book came into my orbit. The book is called On Becoming Babywise. It's about giving your infant the gift of nighttime sleep by Dr. Robert Bucknam and co-author Gary Ezzo. So basically, this book is about putting babies on a feeding time, wake time, and nighttime sleep schedule as newborn infants that are coming home from the hospital, and trying to standardize this a little bit around this program that they call parent-directed feedings. PDF is what this thing calls it. A book if you want to learn more about it. But the reason why I even picked up this book is, as I have two children, and unfortunately for us with Amelia, when she was born, we never actually, let me go take it back a little bit in time. So the reflection title is Learning and Understanding Are Not the Same Thing at All, right? And here's what I mean by that. Most of my life, especially my professional career as a sales professional or in sports or whatever, I'm just not somebody that does a lot of prep. Besides practice and things like that, but I don't those people that maniacally prep for a presentation or a test or whatever it may be, where they just study until they absolutely cannot forget something. And they're just like those people that are just insanely prepared for all that stuff. That kind of person. Think about that person in your mind. That is not me. My coaches and sales trainers and bosses and teachers in school have always called me a wing it wonder is what they call it. I get there and something just snaps in my head. I just go. I learn by doing. I will always get better. I will rapidly improve, but I got to do it. I got to be hands-on doing something, feeling the moment, working my way through it. Yeah, I might do a little bit of training or prep beforehand or whatever, but really I don't know why my brain locks in when I'm in the moment and start to learn, right? Well, when we first found out we were pregnant with Amelia, Felicia asked me to read a bunch of books. Felicia's a preparer. Felicia's one of those people that never, if she has a presentation, she will prepare forever and ever and ever. She never gets things wrong. She's a perfectionist. I like to be good at stuff. I like to be great at stuff. I'm just not a perfectionist, but my wife definitely is. So she was preparing for our child because that's going to be an important task for her. She started reading everything that she could read, and she encouraged me to do so. And I was like, yeah, I'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Once Amelia's here, I'll figure it out. I'm sure, people have been doing this stuff since humans have been alive. I was like, I'm sure that we will figure this thing out. Just like everything, trips or whatever, all this, I'd rather just land in Amsterdam and figure out where we're going and, what we're going to do. I just go ask local people, figure out what's going on, find a hotel. That's my preferred methodology of going somewhere. Right. So I didn't do it. Long story short, I didn't, Felicia asked me to do stuff. I just didn't do it. I was like, I'm not going to. And I told her that. Unfortunately for us, Amelia came really early, and the time that I got to spend with her was short, but incredibly impactful and changed my life. After she passed away, sometimes I would think back to those times when Felicia had asked me to do those things. And I was like, you know what? I should have done that. Not because I wanted to learn, but because my wife's important. My daughter's important. My family's important. Right. So this particular time around, when we found out we were pregnant with Luca, I decided I was going to try a little bit of a different track one, and I was going to try to, use my values and try to learn a little bit more. And that's how this book On Becoming Babywise started to happen, right? So Felicia and I actually read this book together. We listened to this whole thing. We thought we had a game plan, whatever. We talked about it. We felt like we knew a little bit more because we never technically got to take Amelia home. So, we never really had to deal with the newborn stuff, like a traditional parent would, because she was in the hospital the whole entire time when she was alive. So anyway, long story short, Felicia and I read this book, and then Luca's born, and we spend 92 days in the NICU with him, as you know, and he finally gets home. I remembered some of this stuff about On Becoming Babywise, but really, as a parent of 4 people, it's like things it just kicks in. You either figure it out or you don't. Luckily for me, we had 92 days of watching experts in the NICU take care of our son and followed a similar process. We had books that we read beforehand. So by the time we got home, I felt pretty prepared to be able to do what we needed to do. But really, at the end of the day, I was never prepared. No matter what preparation you do beforehand, until you actually have to get into the shit and do whatever you're doing, you're just never going to understand. That goes back to this whole thing full circle. It's like learning what we do in some of these books and what we talk about, and teaching and observing other people is just not the same thing as understanding. It's just like with your values. It might sound like you understand what it's like to live your values, But until you go and try to live your values every single day, you do not understand what we are talking about. Or until you have a purpose or a why or whatever, and you really feel that inside of you that forces you to move forward every single day when you don't want to get on that treadmill, or that you don't want to, you're just lost your job and you're like, well, everything's falling out around you. Like, how are you going to leverage these values to actually, to control your actions, et cetera, et cetera. That's when you start to understand. That's when you transitions from just knowledge to, what's going on in the world. And it only comes by doing. So yeah, that's a high level overview of what I learned this book on Becoming Babywise made me think about. Cause like, it doesn't matter, even though I'm a winged wonder, like I tried to prepare, but it still does not matter until you have to perform and you have to go do your stuff, because that's when you truly start to understand what's going on. Love to get your thoughts. The question was, what's something that you've learned in the past that you would like to really understand, I guess, that you didn't really understand before, but you'd like to actually understand, but it's just knowledge today. So
right.
Love to get your thoughts.
Yeah. So I think I wasn't really clear at first what you meant by learning versus understanding, but now I really do. I think I can relate in terms of when you learn something, it's always about a logical reason and reasoning from the brain.
Yep.
But understanding is you living through it, all the emotions and other senses that comes with that experience. Only then can you understand.
You don't know anything until you do it.
Right. And like I say, I do understand now. And because I have gone through a few of those myself, that understanding is the only way by doing. The only way to understand is by doing it. When we learn something, we think we understand. We pretend to understand.
Right. Yeah, no, until you go to a protest, until you feel what they feel, like, then
you don't really get it.
Understand. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and also another thing is, regardless how much you plan, because planning is on the learning, on the reasoning and a logical spectrum.
Right.
There's still some other dynamics variable that is going to come into place. Most of the time, it's not going to go as exactly as planned.
It will never go as exactly as planned. There's no way ever that you could ever plan something and have it go exactly as planned. It's why I get like I think to like tennis, right? I was just playing tennis yesterday. It wasn't an actual match. It was just like practice match with a friend. I don't even like to practice anymore unless I'm doing a very deliberate skill that I need to figure out how to work out a backhand slice down the line. And I just want to go hit that shot like as many times until I feel like I have some form of understanding of what I want to go do, but then go apply it in the match. Because like, it's just not, I don't like to just hit around with people. It's simulating, even simulating doing something without actually being in the actual environment when you have to click on, right? When we were in the NICU with Luca, like they made me simulate like what it would be like to, have to give Luca CPR or something like that. Or like he's having the Heimlich remover, for a baby because he's choking on something or whatever. And they would give us a little doll. Like the other day, he actually did choke on something and I didn't remember anything. It was just, you just act and you figure it out and you get him into and he puked out like a thing of tape that he was choking on. Right. I don't know where he got it from. You can't simulate that. It's an instinctual thing that comes out when you have to go perform, and it's like the stakes are real. Yes, I learned a lot from that, and then I can go back and consult a book about, okay, what did I do there? How did I do this? Yes, the outcome was that, but can I get better at it? And then go do some deliberate practice to be more prepared for the future. But the feedback loop requires you to do. Like, I guess is what I'm saying. Like you cannot understand anything until you have to do it. You have to do it.
That's the thing is a lot of people say it easily said than done. Right. That's what people say. And it's exactly the same sentiment. It's because you think it's easy, because you think you understand. But the problem is you don't really understand. There's a big gap between understanding and learning. Even when you have an emergency, you don't remember anything. You just go by your instinct, and whatever that instinct learned from eons of conditioning, that's what you do, because your emotion takes over. Your logic just yields to the emotion. You just don't remember a single thing. The thing is, your brain is remembering things, but when you're in action, it is your muscles that remembers.
Right.
It's muscle memory.
Score, right?
So whatever you do, you put them face down and you smack the back of it and trying to get things out. That's instinctual. Your muscle memory is passed on from DNA to DNA. But that's, to me, is really how anyone can understand whatever they learn, whatever they think they understand, it's far from it. I guarantee you. I have
Oh,
4
yeah.
kids. Like, there's no way I would be able to prepare for any of it. It doesn't matter how many books you read, how many TV documentaries you watch, how many people will give you advice. None of them ever fit the right thing, right? It's
Right.
always something different, right?
100%.
If somebody would say, well, maybe it's this, or maybe it's that, you know? So when my first kid, she has like gas issues, right? Some people say, you know, she's this and that. And what everybody's saying like everyone has their own opinion.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, of course they do. At the end of the day, I mean, you're right. Everybody's unique. And
Yeah, just, you know, for example, if I want to learn how to sell, I can learn from you, Chris. I can learn how to sell,
Right.
but I don't really understand how to sell until I sell. I guarantee you.
And so you have to stare somebody down, you know, and to stay calm and to direct a conversation and to ask intelligent questions.
Don't remember how to
like your brain farts, you know, that happens.
Yes.
Like, it's like, you know, when you're first trying to learn a new skill or whatever in tennis, like you forget how to run, like, because you're thinking so hard about, you know, I'm like, I've been running my whole life. Like, I mean, you know, and all of a sudden,
yeah,
like
you try to hit the backhand,
you know,
and you just stumble just because you forgot how to learn.
Right. But until you can work through it and figure it out, like the key is don't ever stop, right? Like don't ever quit, keep trying it. Eventually you'll find your understanding. You know, actually it's a good thing to kind of bring this thing full circle with what we're trying to do with Clubany, right? Like in theory, what we're trying to do, it sounds great. You know, it's what would life look like if you could have a job and not have any duties or have any responsibility and not have any specific task or something like that you needed to perform, and you could just live your values, right? Like you're like, what that sounds great in theory, and you're going to support me by financially providing me with security, to provide security for me, and also give me a community, you know, other people, to make sure that I still have meaningful relationships I can connect on and to build and try new things. Yes, it sounds like a utopia land, right? Well, how does that work in practice? Well, you and I, and to a certain extent, a lot of other people that we've brought into this Clubany universe have been trial and erroring this stuff for 2 years. It's not just a theory of what we're trying to do. But if we were to take it back 2 years ago, I don't know where we would even be if we were just like, let's just figure this thing out. I mean, this has taken us a long time to try to figure out, like, what does it really mean to live a life of values? What does it really mean to have freedom to do whatever you want to do every day, but still also be able to find fulfillment and purpose? I mean, like, these are really hard and abstract topics to understand. And we have to somehow create an environment around that, live that way, and be that example for other people. And then at the same time, be able to coach and teach and bring people along in an intelligent way where they can go on their own journey to understand what we're trying to do here. So there's a lot that goes into all this stuff. And there's no way we would have ever got to where we've gotten if we haven't been doing what we're doing, like this conversation right now, every single day, you know, the books that we're reading every single day, the writing, the reflections, the reinforcing, the trying new stuff, the meetup groups, the core values quest, the 5 different iterations of our website and how we want to, you know, go to market with this. How would we have ever known? Understanding these things is what's come out of the past 2 years. Is we understand it's no longer just a theory. We're trying it, and somebody has a better idea. Great. You might have a book you want to read. Great. But until you figure it out, until you do it, you don't know anything.
Right. And to me, it seems like learning has a limit because you can only go so far with learning.
Right.
You can't get to the next level unless you understand. And to understand, the only way is by try and doing, right? To understand, then you can learn the next level and the next level. You never will get past the first level of learning, right? Because let's say you don't do anything. You say, well, in theory, this is the way it works. Well, it stops right there until you can understand, which by doing, then you can go to the next level and learn more, and then understand, and then go to the next level. Because you will never pass the first level of this, the superficial layer of the first thing is, you know, this is some info, this concept, right?
Right.
But until you understand, you would not be able to learn the next level and the next level, the next level, and how many ever hundreds of level that a topic can contain. And so, like you said, you know, without trying, with what we do with Clubany, we wouldn't understand. We wouldn't be able to learn much beyond just the concept of
relationships. That's what I want. That's what we all want.
Well, I think it makes, but it doesn't really make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes me think of that book. I don't know if we've done this one yet, but surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman, about Richard Feynman's life. Well, he used to be a teacher. Oh, no, not a short set.
Professor.
Physics professor. I remember him talking about some basic math concepts that he understood because he applied them in the real world. And that was how he understood that. That's why he was a genius, because he could apply a conceptual thought, but go like, this is what it looks like in reality. This is a real world example, and this is how this would work in reality, you know. But when he would teach his students, a lot of times they'd be able to memorize like a theory or whatever and be able to explain it back to them. But then when he would say, well, how would this work on this real world example, they literally, they didn't even understand the concept even was the same concept that he was talking about in like a real world example, when they would actually have to go into like in practice and try these things out. They had no idea what he was even referring to, and he was like, wow,
that just means they don't,
right. They don't really, yeah, like you can, these were brilliant people that could learn anything, and they had every bit of knowledge, and they spent all the time, you know, quizzing themselves and repeating these things back, and like, you know, quote unquote, the most promising mathematicians in the world and physicists in the world and things like that. And they couldn't do some of the most basic stuff that a lot of people would understand about physics and practice, you know, in reality, in the real world. Like they didn't understand, which, you know, it just, you have to do it. Like it's the cycle of learning. You learn, you do, you reflect, you know, you get feedback, and you try it all over again. It's good. That's how you learn. Yeah. That's how you understand.
Yes.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on your end on this one?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that you need to do to understand, but unfortunately, there are a lot of things that you just can't do. So, you know, take advantage of things that you can do and try. Because, you know, looking at the question, what is something that you've learned in the past that you really would like to understand? For example, we know about the gravity on Mars. It's much weaker, right? But that's what I learned, but I can't understand it.
Right.
Oh, I would love to understand that, but I would need to be an astronaut. And then I also need to figure out how to be on Mars without the suit. So, you know, because understanding something is one thing, but it's only because you're able to try and practice.
Right.
And so the takeaway that I would like to bring it home is, if there is something that you could do and try, just do it. Just try it. Right.
Just do it. Nike. Just do it. I'm reading Shoe Dog right now, the Phil Knight book. He just did it, man. He just went out and just did it. I think of Rocket Men, the book about the first astronauts out in space, and you're talking about like going to Mars, right?
Right.
Like, man, how amazing are these astronauts and the scientists and the people that created they're thinking in complete abstract, you know, thought, then taking just guesses on what will work and not work, but like clearly very educated guesses. To your point, like how could you ever know what was going to happen? Like, I mean, these people are just like, you know, just so ballsy to be like, sure, this sounds like I can land a plane on the moon. I think we know what gravity feels like and what it feels like to land on this texture of this surface, and what it's going to be like to, like, you know, in zero gravity to bounce around. I mean, like, just think about like all the imagination that had to go into that of like, you know, I mean, they must have like simulated that shit in their mind for forever and ever and ever.
Not only simulate in the mind, but also simulate in a pseudo environment. It's because, you know, you're talking about like for example, space astronauts, they have to be in a anti-gravity environment to let the body adjust as well, because otherwise they won't be able to go on the moon, you know, go on the spaceship in the rocket, right? You want to simulate that to make sure that you're able to understand as much as you could. It's still not the real thing, but the understanding is the doing, right? So you simulate, you put it in a you know, like, I don't know, they put it into some kind of a really airtight environment where they take away the gravity somehow, and they're able to float, right? And have them be able to adjust how they feel, how they interact with whatever the variables are. And they have to train that for a long time before they can go into space, because otherwise it will fail. I mean, even landing on the moon, for example, or landing on Mars, right? They simulate that many times on Earth to simulate as much as they could. So to kind of take out as much of these variables as possible for them to have a few tries in the real planet, in the real place, for it to be successful.
Agreed. Deliberate practice is important. The point I was trying to make with tennis is I learn the most when I'm in a match. You get smacked in the face by an emotion and you have to figure out how to adjust. In tennis and sports, it's so easy to learn or to understand, because you're forced to do. Like you can't just go read a book about tennis and then watch Roger Federer play and have any idea of how to go hit a ball. Like you have no idea. You could watch every YouTube video you want to watch. You could read every book on tennis. You could study Roger Federer for 10,000 hours. And until I put you out on a tennis court and had to learn how to go hit a ball, like you will never know how to hit a ball.
Right.
I mean, you have to do, but to your point, the simulation, absolutely you can learn. That's how you learn. That's how you come to understand.
So almost like perfect practice. Like you can
Right.
have, like when you practice your tennis, right? It could be a non-scoring tournament, but it's still a tournament to you.
Right.
Right. You play as if it's a tournament. And only in that case that it will get you closest to the understanding that you would have in the real try.
Yes. As Mike Tyson would say, it's all fun and games until somebody gets punched in the mouth, right? You know, and then you got to figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, good chat as always. And how about a challenge? Get off your ass and go do some stuff and start to understand life. You know, yeah, just do it. Just do it. Nike. All right. Have a good one. And we'll see you all soon.
You see you.